Hello and welcome to the Hughes at 10. It is Sunday, the 8th of November, 2020, and I'm knackered. So I'm going to try and make it a short one tonight because I honestly want to go to bed. I've been up all week. I haven't slept for a week. Well, I haven't actually slept properly for about 4.5 years. But yeah, last week, Tuesday night, we had the election, stayed up all night for that. Obviously, I did the live thing. I can't believe I went for 3 hours and 50 minutes without having to need to go to the loo. But yeah, and then I was staying up refreshing 538 and the ABC website, the CNN website as the results were coming in. And then last night, obviously, it was the big speeches from Kamala Harris and from Joe Biden. So I thought I'd stay up for them. And I was really, really, really impressed with what Joe Biden said. Honestly, better man than me. I would have just stood there and gone, fuck yes, like fuck Trump. I would have, yeah. This is why I should never go into politics in real life. I should just be the old guys, Statler and Waldorf, in the box watching and just throwing peanuts and making comments. Much better suited to that, I think. But no, he was really statesmanlike. I love the line he said, "I'm not here for the blue America or red America. I see the United States of America," which is fucking brilliant. That could have been out of a Hollywood movie. That was, yes, God, yes, that's exactly what we need right now. But yeah, fantastic news for the world. And it does feel in many ways that we've just woken up from an horrific nightmare. However, in the UK, we're still living that nightmare because we have something called Brexit, which is like, I don't know, it's like the Saruman to Trump's Sauron. Okay, we're defeated. They're big bad. They're big bad. The tower's fallen. The orcs have all disappeared into the earth, and everything's good again. Aragorn is king, and everyone walks back to the Shire with a song in their heart and skipping all the way. And then they get back to the Shire, and it's fucked. It's absolutely fucked. Why is it fucked? Because Sauron's there with Dominic Cummings. Grima Wormtongue, and they've destroyed the Shire. Because they could, not for any good reason, just pure malicious revenge against the hobbits, because obviously it was the hobbits who destroyed the ring, and that's what we're facing now. The Shire was always based on Britain or England in Tolkien's head, and this is where we are now. And what I want to talk about is the impact of the presidency of Biden on the UK and specifically on Brexit. But let's just talk about the situation with the UK. What happens with the Biden presidency? The first thing is that our biggest liability is Boris fucking Johnson. You know, the guy who compared EU officials to the guards in a concentration camp, a Nazi murder camp. And he thought that was an acceptable thing to say. You know, the guy who compared the EU to the USSR, laughing in the faces of the people in Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, who still remember the USSR and still remember the crimes that were committed on their land, the blood that was spilt. And he's comparing the EU, the club that they joined and have done really, really well out of, with the USSR. That was the past. Now we're going to look at the future. The future with having Boris Johnson in charge is an absolute fucking mess. Kamala Harris hates him. Joe Biden hates him. The people around them hate him. They called him a chancer, didn't they, the other day? A shape-shifting chancer, they called him. And they're damn right. And look at it this way. Biden is very proud of his ancestral roots. And they go to Ireland. Now, it's one thing that Cromwell went over to Ireland and killed 3,500 Irish people for little or no good reason. It's quite another thing that the Irish population still has not recovered from the potato famine of the 1840s, in which there was a blight and the crops failed. And instead of helping them, like, I don't know, a civilization would or civilized people would, the British decided to take as many of the good potatoes out of the country and eat them themselves or sell them to other people. Thanks for that. And the population of Ireland still hasn't recovered. Half the people died who aren't there anymore, and the other half left. They went to America. They went to Australia. They went to the UK, Britain. And so that's Biden. Now he used to be under he was the vice president for the president, who was at the time Barack Obama, whose father was from Kenya. Not content with calling people from Congo pickaninnies, which is a really horrible racial slur, and saying they had watermelon smiles, Boris Johnson seems to be on a one-man mission to just upset like every nation in the world in alphabetical order. You know that guy from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy who goes around the galaxy insulting people in alphabetical order because he's immortal and he's got nothing better to do. It's a bit like that. Anyway, so he said about Obama removing the bust of Winston Churchill from the room in the White House, and it might have been the Oval Office. I can't remember. And he wrote that he was part Kenyan hatred, ancestral hatred of the British. And I'm like, well, actually, you know what? If he didn't hate Britain before, he fucking does now, dickhead. What are you doing? Saying this stuff? You represent our nation, my nation, your nation, if you're British. This fucking wank shaft is going up to people who should be our friends and our allies and people who should be on our side and going, oh, wanker, oh, you a twat, to their faces. And for him, it's all a great big lark because he doesn't care about Britain. He doesn't care about our standing in the world. He doesn't care if the whole world is laughing at us as long as he can get, jobs for his mates, which I think I'll discuss tomorrow. I think jobs for the boys is going to have to be the title, or the girls in this case. It's going to have to be the title of the Hughes at 10 tomorrow. So let's look at Kenya. The Mau Mau uprising of the 1950s. 11,000 Kenyans killed by the British in that uprising. I mean, look, they wanted independence. And although some of the tactics taken by the Mau Mau were reprehensible, I mean, fuck's sake, they didn't ask the British to come there. We were thousands of miles from home. We said, oh, you're Kenya now. Well done. You're now Kenya. Ha, 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 ha. Isn't that great? And they went, we didn't, what? Hey, hang on, why are we Kenya? How does that work? That makes no sense. Mount Kenya's not even in this country. Anyway, the point being that if you do have Kenyan ancestry, there's reasons to not be that fond of the British Empire. Now, that's not the British now. It's not us now, is it? Because the people who committed those crimes are now long dead. But the thing is that Boris Johnson represents in the way he talks, in the way he behaves, in his supercilious manner, his bluster, his bullshit. He represents the British Empire. He's a throwback to those days, just as much as Jacob Rees-Mogg, the haunted pencil, is this horrible Victorian dad from the Viz who goes out and murders prostitutes at the weekend because the legs on a coffee table turned him on or something. Boris Johnson, though, he represents that old school of British thought, that old colonial empire, even going back as far as slavery. He represents that kind of British mentality. We're the best at everything. We're superior. We need to go and subjugate the natives and teach them civilization. And then we come to Kamala Harris, who is half Jamaican and half Indian. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the British took more slaves from West Africa to the West Indies, Caribbean, than were taken to America in total. So we have all this stuff and we know all these things. We've seen 12 Years a Slave. Fuck, we've seen Django Unchained. We've seen Roots. We've seen all this stuff about slavery. We know about slavery in the United States. We have been told fuck all about slavery in the Caribbean. And why is the Caribbean called the Caribbean anyway? Anyone know? It was named after the Caribs. Has anyone met a Carib? No, because they don't exist anymore. What few Caribs were left after the people were ravaged by smallpox and just being murdered. Not just the British, by the way, the French were there as well, and the Spaniards and the Portuguese. So not just the British in that particular crime, but the British took what was left of the Caribs and abandoned them. There was a rebellion, the Garifuna rebellion, and they dumped them in Honduras in the jungle, thinking that they would die. And they didn't. They prospered. And that's why we have Belize. Funny story. Anyway, so if you're Jamaican and you're of, you're obviously of African heritage, so your ancestors were brought over there forcibly in chains by the British. And then you think about the way that British people have treated Jamaica over the years, using them not maybe once they can have slave labor anymore, but just effectively just as good as slave labor, especially what I'm thinking of, which is the Suez Canal, where the British had, said, oh, we'll supply you labor. We'll just get loads of people from Jamaica. And in the building of the Panama Canal, 27,000 people died. Not all of them were from Jamaica, but a good chunk were. A good chunk were for other countries in the West Indies. And then now, Windrush. Fucking Windrush. So let me get this straight. We ask these people to leave their homes, to leave their family and their friends and their community, and get on a fucking boat and sail halfway around the world to go and settle down and live and work in a country and do the jobs that we haven't got the workforce to do. And they bring their children, because who separates the children from their parents except monsters like Trump? And these children are now grown up, but they don't have a British passport. And they did have details. The fucking Home Office seems to have lost them in 2011. Did they just burn them? Did they throw them out a fucking window? And they started deporting people. Deporting people who had lived in the UK for 60 years. Deporting them back to a country they've never known. They've got no friends. They don't own anything. They've got no job. They get deported over there. And it was only the outrage when people found out about this that made them stop. And they're still not giving compensation. Not like they should. So that's Jamaica. Let's talk about let's talk about Harris's other ancestral root, which is of India. And I'm sure Kamala's a lovely, lovely lady, and I'm sure she doesn't hold everyone in Britain personally responsible for the crimes committed by the British during the age of the Raj. But here's the facts, okay? The British history of the conquest of India was nothing but a history of plunder and rape and pillage. Ships went over, not laden with gold, but they went over empty, and they came back full of spices and rubber and whatever the fuck else we took from the great subcontinent. And when the Indian people rebelled, we slaughtered them. There was the massacre of Amritsar, I think it was in about 1919, in which scores of women and children were just shot dead with machine guns. Unarmed women and children for having the audacity to say, what are you doing here? This is literally a country on the other side of the world. And you know what? We don't mind you visiting. We won't mind you staying individually. Don't come to our country and declare yourself the rulers. Say, oh, we're in charge here because we've got the fucking guns. We've got the guns, the germs, and the steel. And then it gets worse, because the British, their shitness at working out how to separate India from the British Empire, the fact that we just kind of just gave up. Lord Mountbatten just fucking lowered the flag and pissed off in August 1947. And he left this fledgling country of hundreds of millions of people. It's now over 1 billion. At the time it was hundreds. He left them to it. There was no transition like we had in Hong Kong. There was no agreement of how things would go forward. There was no helpful, later coming on and saying, look, this is how we should do it. We just left. And what happens? Religious conflict, huge religious conflict. The partition of India into three parts: West Pakistan, East Pakistan, and India. And in partition, 1 million people died. And this was only, don't forget, this was only a few years after the Bengal famine. The Bengal famine, in which between 2.1 and 3 million people starved to death because we needed their food for the war efforts. in the early 1940s. And so I'm here now just thinking, we haven't put our best foot forward with the new president and the new vice president. And Boris Johnson remains an absolute liability. He really does. I'm sorry, I'm getting news that me sound's not working that great. How do I change my sound settings? I can't. Oh, well, that's really helpful, isn't it? The tags, I don't want tags. I don't want... It should be recording through my laptop, but I don't think it is. Let's cancel that. I think the only way to change my mic settings is to actually end the stream and then start another one. So unfortunately, you're kind of stuck with my crappy sound at the moment. I don't know if I can do anything about it. There's a buzzing noise. That's interesting. It's probably the fan on my laptop. If I put it down here, can you still hear a buzzing noise? It was okay last night, says Gaz. Is there still a buzzing noise? I think it's the fan on my laptop. Dell. Zoom to me, Dell. This is very professional, isn't it? Google Chrome is using your microphone. Okay. All right. Well, listen. Volume is fine. Okay. Well, John says the volume's fine. I'm really sorry about the buzzing. I've put my laptop on top of a book, so hopefully that'll do it a little bit better. Anyway, so on with the show. That's your historical context, and now we have Brexit. And as I've said so many times, you need an external mic and headphones. All right, Wayne, hang on. I thought I had Wayne. I thought I had a mic, and look, I'll sort it out for the next one. All right, promise you. Right, where was I? So that's the historical context, and now we've got Brexit. And like I say, Boris Johnson is an absolute liability because of who he is and what he represents and what he has personally said. The best thing that we can do as a nation right now is to run Boris Johnson out of town, because we ain't going to get even a bad trade. Well, we ain't going to get the trade deal that they're looking for with him. But this is the thing. We were never going to get a great trade deal. In fact, actually, we might get a better trade deal with Biden than we ever would have got with Trump, because Trump would have tried to screw us over. He was never our friend. He was only out for himself. And this is where you start thinking, well, hang on. Well, if we can get a good deal, what does that mean? Well, it means that we can improve our trade by a fraction of the trade that we have lost through leaving the EU. Check out the stats on our exports. They've just gone off a cliff since 2016. And it's quite remarkable that you look at the world, and I thought this when I was looking at the map of America, and someone did a map, and it was distorted for population, and it said maps don't vote, people do, which I thought was really good. Had these like dots on to show how many people lived in each area, and obviously the bit in the middle makes up the most space in America, which is little tiny dots, and then obviously all down the coast, big dots of big population centers. But you look at the map of the world and you think, wow, look at that space. Look at all those countries. Look at the size of Africa. It's huge. Look at the size of South America. That's massive. And look at the size of Asia. Jesus Christ. But the fact is that there's only so much wealth in the world. It's a limited amount of wealth. And yes, okay, let's say it's just all made up by humans because we need to have some kind of barter system to buy things. But it's the way the world works. So the GDP of the entire planet is about 64 trillion pounds a year. And obviously it goes up, which is something that the Brexiteers love to say, the growth rate of Bhutan last year was 11%. It's 11% of fuck all. Well, this isn't hard. But yeah, going back to the world, I said the other day, I don't know whether it was on the election one or just on the Hughes at 10, that you put all the countries of Africa together, you put the GDP together, and it's less than the GDP of France's. But it's kind of worse than that. If you take the big sort of countries, the big trade blocks out of the equation. So let's take out the EU. Let's take out China. Let's take out the US. And let's also take out Japan, which don't forget is the third biggest economy in the world. Take out those 4 countries, right? Let's exclude Britain from the measurement here. If you combine the GDP of all of the remaining 160 countries in the world, the GDP is less than that of the EU. And so, again, I keep making this point of saying, look, we can waste our time having these trade deals with other countries, but they're not going to be worth a pan of scouse. And the thing is that the US, which is a wealthy country, and we can have a good trade deal with them, I guess, theoretically. But what does it mean for us? Because, again, I said this the other day, at the risk of repeating myself, you don't make a trade deal because you want to buy things. You make a trade deal because you want to sell them. And the big question is, what have we got to sell? And this holds for Africa. We're not going to sell them Nissan Qashqais. We can't get, what are we going to do? Sell them lamb? I mean, come on. The GDP per capita per day in somewhere like Ivory Coast is like, it's like a few quid a day. We make things for wealthy people who live nearby, and we're throwing that away, or at least putting barriers up to that trade, to trade with people who haven't got very much, who live thousands of miles away. And it's remarkable when we see, the Liz Truss, our face of Britain, Jesus Christ, gormless face of Britain, going around, we've got a trade deal. We've got a trade deal with Ivory Coast. We've got a trade deal with the Faroe Islands. We've got a trade deal with Mongolia. And the fact is that our trade deal with America, because we don't really have that much to sell them, is going to be not as good as it could have been if we had got it through the EU. Because then we're benefiting from everyone in the EU selling them stuff. We're benefiting from France selling stuff, and Germany selling them cars, and Italy selling them Prosecco, and Spain selling them sherry, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That we're all benefiting from it if we're all part of that club. But we're not part of that club. We've left. We've set ourselves up as the biggest trade rivals of the biggest and most successful trade union in the world. And we're going to go to the US, and we're going to say, please, can we have a trade deal? And the US is going to go, hold your horses, we're going to talk to the EU. And then it also comes back to the fact that Joe Biden is very, he feels very Irish. He's very Irish American. You know, he feels his Irish roots. And what's happened in the last few weeks is that Parliament have voted this bill. I think it's on to the second reading now. It's back in the House of Lords to basically break international law, to rewrite a deal, to renege on an international agreement that we have with the biggest and most successful trading union in the world, which is right on our doorstep, our friends and our neighbours, our NATO allies in the EU. And America's looking at this going, what's the point? What's the point of giving you a deal if you're just going to renege on it? Well, okay, here's the deal. And basically, we're going to make a deal that makes it easy for us to sell you stuff. And we don't give a shit what you've got to sell us, because Union Jack tea towels, I don't know. And now that we've left the EU, it looks like, hey, what are we going to do about geographical indicators? Like saying where things are from are actually where they're from. What's to stop someone in a state in America, in Ohio, setting up a farm called British Farms and selling stuff with that tinted all over the packaging? British Farms, Union Jack. You wouldn't know. If we're not going to have proper labelling, whatever. The EU, the US, quite frankly, is in a position to completely screw us, as is the EU. Because of Brexit, we have put ourselves in the most vulnerable position that our country has been in since the fucking war, since World War II, since the fucking Blitz. That's how on a knife edge it is at the moment. And we've got the clown in chief in charge in 10 Downing Street with his Svengali, Dominic Cummings, Grima Wormtongue, being told what to do by Vladimir Putin, who's strangely quiet so far. I don't know if anyone's got any updates. When I last checked, he still hadn't congratulated Joe Biden on winning the presidency. It's funny that, considering he was the guy who everyone said would interfered in the 2016 election in order to get Trump, who's never criticized Putin, no matter what he's done. Yeah, it's funny that he hasn't said congratulations, and neither has Xi Jinping, the leader of China, because there's an old adage, isn't there? Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. And Trump was the biggest mistake that America has ever made. But as I said at the time, it's only for 4 years, 8 if we're really unlucky. Whereas Brexit's forever. Britain will never rejoin the EU. The best we can hope for is maybe rejoining joining the EEA, but it sounds like they don't want us. It sounds like they don't want Britain because we'll be too big and we'll bully the smaller members, which, yeah, we will, because that's what we do. And they know it. The rest of the world knows this stuff. They know the history. They know what the British did. And where there's an element of, it was a long time ago, forgive and forget, it doesn't help if these fucking barbarians like Boris Johnson, these privileged, entitled little shits, are running around in their Union Jack fucking boxer shorts, waving the flag, going, oh, we're the best at everything. And when you go, actually, no, you've been a bellend in at least 24 occasions in which thousands of people died as a result of your actions. Britain, oh no, that's false news. We're not going to teach that in schools anymore. And then children all around the world won't know about it because there won't be any internet or schools in other countries that we don't control. But it's fine. Let's change the syllabus in the UK. So we only did boss things. We only did good things. So here we are now. We're absolutely at the mercy of the EU. We're at the mercy of the US. And we always have been. I mean, since the Brexit vote, since it went through, since there was no chance of a second referendum, we have been absolutely at the mercy of the big players in the world because there's only 3 big players. There's the US, there's the EU, and there's China. And you're either part of those countries or you're on the outside looking in, saying, hey, can I be a little part of this? Can I? And whereas other countries like Japan and Canada and South Korea and Singapore have gone the extra mile in order to get a trade deal with the EU because they go, oh my God, I can sell things to 450 million people, most of whom are quite wealthy. Well, a lot of whom are quite wealthy, I should say. Instead of looking at it like that way, we've looked the other way. We've gone, well, these poor people in Ghana, we're going to sell them stuff. They're going to buy our things. Don't know what we're going to sell them. Services. Yay, I'm sure they want internet superstructure. I don't know. What services? Banking. Yeah, I'm sure they want a share portfolio. Hey, farmer in Chad, why don't you look at this share portfolio that you might want and I can make some money from it and have a nice swanky office in Canary Wharf. And so, yeah, this is Brexit's impact. Well, I said I was going to make this about Biden's impact on Brexit. It doesn't change anything, really. We're just still going to get royally screwed. What it does change is the importance of getting rid of Boris Johnson as soon as possible, and also the importance of the Lord's amendments to the fucking United Kingdom bill or whatever, the Internal Market Bill. Which obviously is overriding parts of the withdrawal agreement that we have with the EU. The EU is not very happy about that, and the Lords are putting in amendments so it doesn't break international law, and MPs will get another chance to vote on that later this month, I believe. So if that happens, they need to back the Lords' amendments and make sure that the bill does not disrupt the withdrawal agreement. But more importantly, with Joe Biden as president, and with anyone with a bit of heart and soul and a bit, of decency and honor to them as president, it won't violate the Good Friday Agreement, which is the most important post-war treaty that Britain has signed, and it meant the end of decades of violence in Northern Ireland. And it was this amazing document, and it was underpinned by our membership of the European Union. Now that's gone. The guy, okay, you can't put up a border, but if you want to drive your car from Belfast to Dublin, you're going to need a green card. It's different insurance. I like your phones. As soon as you go over the border, is that going to be roaming? Are the roaming rates going to come back? Great, thanks for that, Brexit. And the idea of putting a border in the North Sea, which is what's going to happen, because it's what's got to happen, means that Britain separates itself off from Northern Ireland in a way that it's not done before. But the DUP propped up Theresa May's government, so suck it up, fuckballs, you get what you pay for. Maybe you should have read the small print, which said, you're a sucker, fuck off. But they didn't do that. They just supported Theresa May's government, and now we have Brexit. That's basically, in almost a nutshell, the story of Brexit, where we are right now, how Biden's going to affect it with his Irish American roots, and what we can look forward to going forwards with these clowns in charge. We need a change of leader. We need a change of government, but because of the British system, we can't have one for 4 years now, 4 years and 1 month. If we do decide to have an early one, it will be at the request of the government, because they got an 80-seat majority. I know it's been whittled down a bit because a few of them have left or gone, whatever, but they got an 80-seat majority in the last election. And that's something that is just mind-blowing, because it means that they are completely in charge and we can't do anything about it. And they're going down in the polls, and they're down to about 35% now. Not low enough for my liking, but they could go down to 5%. They could go down to 5% in the polls, and they'll still be in charge. And that's fuck all we can do about it. Except maybe take some of the bastards to court, which is what Julian Morn is doing with his Good Law project, which I'll talk a bit more about tomorrow, I think. Okay, right, that's it for tonight, almost. I'm going to just go through a few of your notes that aren't saying, turn your sound on, you idiot, it's buzzing. Tories trying to creep to Biden now. Yeah, I saw that. It's like, oh, Biden, we love you. Colin's saying Graham's talking about the Scouring of the Shire, which actually isn't in the third film. You're absolutely right, but I do agree with Peter Jackson on this. It was kind of like it had enough endings as it was, and people criticised it for having too much endings and having too many endings and going on too long. So whereas the Scouring of the Shire would have fitted if the Lord of the Rings was a TV show, which at the time would be unthinkable because the budgets of TV shows were shite until obviously The Sopranos and The Wire and Lost and things came along and actually made things look good on television. Right now, I mean, at the time, no, you couldn't have had that chapter in because it would just gone on too long. But a really funny comment, I think it was by Mitch Benn, about the election last week. And he wrote on Saturday morning, he said, who the fuck is directing this election, Peter Jackson? It's just like going on forever. The Scouring of the Shire is, Tolkien said he didn't like allegory. He didn't like, he said the story should stand on its own 2 feet. It's not a story about something else. But the idea of coming back from war and things never being the same is a kind of an element, because don't forget, Tolkien he fought in World War One. I think he was at the Battle of Somme, actually. Well, correct me if that's wrong, but I know a lot of his friends died. And that used to be in a group called the Inklings. I think some of his mates in the Inklings, they were like writers. C.S. Lewis, I think, was a member. A lot of them died in the trenches, and that really had a profound effect on Tolkien and his writings. But why am I talking about Tolkien? Let's do a different. I'll do a different podcast about Tolkien. Talk about it all day. There is a TV series, by the way, set in the Second Age that's coming out, which hopefully will be all right, because the Second Age is really quite interesting, and it involves the fall of Numenor. Oh my God, I'm such a geek. All right, I just Johnson is an idiot. Remember what he said about Hillsborough? Yes, I do remember what he said about Hillsborough. Sorry, my hair's all over the shop now. Basically, he said there was an article published in an editorial article. It might not have been written by him, but it was certainly published by him in the Spectator magazine that said that basically that Liverpool are a bunch of whingers who won't take responsibility for their own actions in Hillsborough, which it turns out was all the fault of the police, because they were criminally inept and managed to get away with it, unfortunately. But it has come out that every single person, the 96 people who died at the Hillsborough tragedy, but all unlawfully killed. And meanwhile, the son, Calvin McKenzie, and his scumbag mates accused the fans of attacking ambulance drivers, of urinating on the dead, of stealing wallets from corpses. And all this information was fed to them by the police, who were obviously trying to cover up this huge fucking tragedy that they had caused by their own incompetence. You know what they did, the police, in trying to reframe the tragedy as the fault of these drunken fans? They tested every single corpse for alcohol, including the 11-year-old boy who died. They tested the corpse of an 11-year-old boy to see if he was drunk, to try and pin the blame on him instead of the police who are actually to blame. And Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, sticking up for him. Anyone who's from Liverpool or supports Liverpool Football Club, actually, who supports Johnson or voted for Johnson, wants to hang their head in fucking shame, quite frankly, for that man and what he said about my city. Gaz is saying the class system ruined Britain. I think you're right. I had this conversation with my auntie in Denmark. She was a Scouser. She moved over to Denmark. She married a Dane in the early 70s. And family, my auntie, and we used to go over a lot with my family. And I always remember I went over there in the mid-90s, and my auntie said that Britain, its problem was, and this is from someone who came from Britain, grew up there, and then moved abroad, and now was in a country that was looking back. So the problem with the British is it's a class system, and the class system, and they're just obsessed with the empire. They just haven't got over the fact that they've lost their empire. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, that's bollocks, because I grew up in Liverpool. I went to a Catholic infant school. I went to a C of E junior school. My mum was actually baptized twice, believe it or not. She was baptized as a C of E, and then she was baptized Catholic. So she's hedging her bets, I guess. I didn't actually know that Catholics were a minority growing up until, I was a teenager or something. I just thought it was 50-50, because that's about what it is in Liverpool. And we don't have much of a class system in Liverpool. It's never felt that way. It's always felt like kind of one community, even from as far back as I can remember. I don't remember any Lord Snooties driving around in their Land Rovers, lording it over everyone. I kind of think it's gone that way a bit now, but back when I was growing up, it felt different. It felt very different to the rest of the country in that respect. So did Manchester, to be honest with you. There was less of that sort of class hierarchy of no, you can't get this job because you don't sound posh enough. We're from Liverpool, none of us sound posh. But yeah, the class system sort of now, even to this day, it's 2020, and nearly everyone in the Tory party who's got any position of power, pretty much is privately educated, is part of the upper classes, the metropolitan elite, as Nigel Farage, who's part of the metropolitan elite, like to call them. Nigel Farage losing £10,000. God, that cheered me up yesterday. Okay, you're vibrating again. Oh, God. Graham, a proper legend. Thank you, Blomdorf. Thank you. There was indentured labour too, so Kamala Harris's entire ancestry has justified grievances. Yeah, Phil Spicer's indentured labour. I didn't even fucking mention that. That's a very good point. So you go to Guyana, and a lot of the people there look like, they're of Indian descent, and many of them are, because indentured labour is brought over from India to North or South America to live in Guyana. Fiji is a really good example of this. So Fiji, British turned up and said, hey, why don't you work 9 to 5? And the Fijians were like, fuck off. What are you talking about? We've got enough food. Just grow it. Hungry, we eat a pig. We're fishing. Well, what's this fucking work like? Oh, you've got no work ethic. You've got to make crops, and you've got to make money, and you've got to make more money, and then you've got to make more money on top of more money, and the shareholders have got to be satisfied. And the Fijians are like, no, not doing this. This is shit. Why am I making money for you? That's bonkers. Now, these guys were radical fucking socialists back in the day. And so what the British did was they brought a load, like thousands and thousands of Indian indentured workers. So an indentured worker, someone who basically pays for their passage to wherever they go. They have to pay that off before they're free to go and do what they want. So you saw this with the Chinese who built the American Railroad, I think, from the Californian coast. Met up with the Irish, built the other side of it. They met up in the middle, had a party, I guess. Food would have been good. And then you had, yeah, so even today, I don't know if it's changed now, but when I was in Fiji, I stayed with a family that was Fijian with some Indian heritage. And they had these weird rules, like if you I don't want to get this wrong, and I don't want to say, cast aspersions on the Fijian system if any Fijians are watching this. But I'm pretty sure that for a long time, if you were Indian, you weren't allowed to own property, you had to rent. And that creates obviously huge social divisions in society, even to this day. Needs to sort out the sound system. Yeah, sorry about the sound system, everyone. I'm going to try and get my clip mic. I've got clip mics, but they go into my smartphone, and if I put them into my laptop, they don't seem to work. But I'll try and sort that out tomorrow. It's weird feedback. Sorry. How did you get from Suez to Panama, which was built by the US? Are you pissed? Oh, sorry. Did I say Suez Canal? I meant Panama Canal. Sorry. I was talking about the Jamaicans who built the Panama Canal. Did I say Suez? It's live. Cut. Edit. Just, dub what I was supposed to say over my face. I've got someone saying your sound is fine and someone else saying there's a buzzing noise. It's okay. I can still hear you. Okay. The link between the Bengal famine and World War II isn't as clear cut as you suggest, David. I'm sure it's not as simplistic as I made it out. I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than that, and I know that. I know that there's nuances to it, and I know that it wasn't all the fault of the British. And fuck it. If you went at war, if you went fighting Hitler, if the Japanese hadn't bombed Pearl Harbor, yeah, okay. There's mitigating circumstances, but still. You can look at that as an Indian and not as a British person, just looking at it as an Indian and going, oh my God, look at this historic injustice that was done to us by the British that they don't really talk about and they've never really apologized for. It's not that bad. God, talking about the sound. Okay. Do you know what it's going to be in 2021? Does Boris control shit? Well, yeah. I mean, Boris is the talisman of the Conservative Party at the moment, and him and his mate Dominic Cummings and Michael Gove have remade the Tory Party in their image and got rid of all the moderates and all sensible people, and the people who are left are fucking wingnuts, are all just lunatics and idiots, and that's who they want to be. I mean, it's a fucking circus, and we're stuck with them for the next 4 years at least. Okay, just so we can live off soy sauce. Yeah, soy sauce from Japan. We don't even buy any soy sauce from Japan, like hardly any. Most of our soy sauce comes from the European Union. Yeah, it comes from the Netherlands. Don't worry about the sound. It's the Dalek in the background. What the fuck is going on with my sound? Oh God, I'm faking my laptop here now. One thing makes me angry, fishing. What about exported goods from China? You need to avoid Portuguese and Spanish waters or pay tribute for transporting goods, adding extra thousands of miles. Yeah, well, hang on. Going through the Suez Canal, and the Panama Canal, costs so much money, it'll make your eyes water. I think I was on a ship that was going from Djibouti and it was going up through Suez. And I got off in Suez before it went through the canal up to Port Said, I think is at the north end. And they were a day late, and so they had to pay an extra $27,000 for the pilotage. You need to have a local pilot on your boat when you go through the canal. We have Kenya and Mongolia. Yay, Mongolia. Well, the US is not going to be a growth market for your financial services sector. No, I don't think it's going to be either. Brexiteers don't even understand the basics of maths. Can I explain the referendum result was 2% of them? Yeah. Well, it was just tiny. I mean, they go, oh, it's the biggest referendum result ever, the most democratic thing of all time. And you're like, no, because it was almost 50-50. So you've pissed off you pissed off 16.4 million people. Is it 16.4? It's around there anyway. Yeah. Has anyone seen anyone as hideous as Theresa May? Yeah. Katie Hopkins. She's privately educated as well. This Mongolia handled the pandemic well. True story. Fishing is worth less than Harrods to the UK. Yeah, that's a Matilla. You're absolutely right. Fishing, the entire fishing industry is worth less than Harrods. Just bonkers. We're throwing it all away. We're just going, I don't want this. Don't want this money. We're sick of it. Take it away. And the mad thing is that when Scotland gets independence, they take about fucking 60% of our waters with them. it's more than that. Jesus Christ. So yeah, it's all a bit sort of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic at this point. But you know what we were doing, manufacturing the iceberg for ourselves to crash into, is anyone's guess. What do you mean 8 if we're unlucky Trump just lost? No, I meant that's what I said, David. I meant when I was saying it, 4 years ago, I was saying, well, Trump can only stay in charge for 4 years or 8 if we're unlucky, because obviously the term limit that came in after Roosevelt won 4 elections in a row and he didn't want doing that. They put in a term limit of 2. My state's university system is hoping more EU students will come to the US to study instead of the exited UK. Probably. Thanks, Brian. I mean, it's a devastating effect on EU students coming here and for the universities in this country, because loads of EU students, right, can go to all these different universities in the EU and pay EU student fees, which are a little bit higher than the local fees. I think they are a lot lower than the international student fees. Interestingly enough, if you are from Jersey and you come to the UK to study, you have to pay international fees, which are a higher level. If you're from just across the water in France, you pay the EU rate. Anyway, that's all going. So the incentive to study in Britain is going as well. And bloody hell, the bad news stories coming out of Durham University over the last few months are just horrific. The bullying that's gone on, the entitlement, they had this thing about trying to sleep with someone, these posh boys trying to sleep with girls who are from working class families, and they all thought it was a big joke. There was a girl who was raped in South America, and the university refused to pay for her legal fees because they said it wasn't covered by the insurance. And you're just like, oh, for fuck's sake, what are you doing? But then again, Durham University, 37% privately educated. What do you expect? Okay, I think Putin might be dead. After all, that's how Russians usually give immunity from prosecution. Yeah, true. It will not fall into pieces before Jan, and we'll crawl back discreetly. Yeah, but Ernie, it's a good point that you make. We will crawl back, but we will crawl back as independent states. So England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland will rejoin as Ireland. I think there'll be a bodge measure where if you live in Northern Ireland, you can call yourself British and have a British passport if you want. But unless you are a mad flag shagger at this point, you wouldn't really want a British passport, because the Irish passport would do you a lot better, because it would allow you to live and travel and work in all these different countries. And also it will cost you less to travel around the world because it all gets put on the EU passports. Whereas we need to renegotiate how much our citizens have to pay to go to every single country in the world now. This is another thing that people aren't bringing up enough. People go, oh, great, can we go to every country in the world? And I'm like, yes, you can, but thanks to Brexit, it's going to cost you more. Because you go to these countries, it's like $50 for a visa on the border, and it'll go up. Anyway, so the Irish passport's the best passport in the world, I think, now at the moment to have for going everywhere. So if I won't, if you don't mind. So turn the mic on. Okay, so I'm going to chuck over to the last few messages here, because I really need to get going. So I've said that my half-hour show, it's gone on for 48 minutes now. I love Denmark. Copenhagen is one of my fave cities. Gaz, I'm with you, mate. I love that place. And do you know what? If you went there now, you'll be able to have some of the Yule lager that they have, the Christmas lager. And some people think it's disgusting, but I'm sick. I like Marmite, for God's sake. Yeah, it's basically lager, but with festive spices in it. So basically it's a pumpkin latte for a pint, and it's really nice, but it costs about 20 quid a pint because it's Denmark. The greatest trick class plays is for it to appear that it does not exist. It certainly does exist, Ernie, and you're absolutely right. It pretends that it doesn't, but it's there right in front of us every day of our lives. And when we see all these appointments, all these people, all these jobs for the boys, they're nearly always people of the upper class. And what's happened is people don't see people as upper class anymore because they don't wear a top hat and live in a stately home. Well, apart from Jacob Rees-Mogg, who does. But we say, oh no, they're just upper middle class. They're not upper middle class. They're not. They're upper class. That's it. They don't live the same lives as you or I. They're on a different level, and they all work amongst themselves. They're a little coven of fuckers, a lot of them. Not all of them. Some people who are rich are really nice, but not all of them. Not by a long chalk. And so, yeah, when I say rich, I mean people born into money. It just pisses me off that we go, oh, look at these great British entrepreneurs. Name me 3 British entrepreneurs. Go on. Okay. Dyson. You know, shit vacuum cleaners and big practice here. Richard Branson. Yeah, he's a self-made man, isn't he? Tim Martin, who owns Wetherspoons, is worth £500 million. Whoa! What great entrepreneurs. All of them went to posh private schools. Even the guy who dresses like Wurzel fucking Gummidge, who owns Wetherspoons. Posh private schools. All part of what I would class as the upper class. And we need to start doing this. We need to start pointing it out. We need to go, hang on. What gave that person a leg up? And when they decide that they're not going to pay tax, or when they decide that they're going to get rid of half of their staff, or all of their staff in the case of Wetherspoons, and tell them to go and get a job at McDonald's if they want. You can tell them, hang on, but you're fabulously rich. Why? What? How, you didn't build yourself up from nothing. Anyway, so Ernie says he won. Yep, I think hopefully that's for Biden. Factgasm says, thank heaven for Biden's win. Yes. US democracy removed a tyrant from the White House and thwarted no deal Brexit. Yeah. But the thing is with no deal Brexit, and maybe I'll do a video about this, it makes no difference. We're going to get screwed either way because there's going to be barriers or there's going to be barriers. Some barriers are going to be a little bit higher than others, but a deal Brexit still puts barriers because we still need to check everything going out the country. And so we make it harder for people to buy things in other countries, and they won't buy things from us because everything we make, with the possible exception of Scotch whiskey, which is going to go with Scotland when it goes independent, is available elsewhere for less money. Shit. Well, that sucks, doesn't it? We've got bugger all in the way of natural resources in this country. If we build enough wind turbines, maybe we can export some electricity. But until then, we've got no gold. The Romans took that. All of our coal is split stream mining. So it's, where there's a seam of coal, and then it goes down half a kilometre, and you've got it. Maybe not that far. You got to dig down. All our coal comes from Australia, and we shouldn't be burning coal anyway. Everyone's moving away from that. So we can't make our own steel. We need to get the iron. Our iron ore is just not good enough. We don't have any bauxite to make aluminium. We don't have any coltan, which is the mineral that goes in all your mobile phones and your laptops. Coltan. It's only available in a few places in the world. Not available in Britain. Like, we don't have the resources to build a mobile phone, and if we did, it would cost £16,000. Anyway, right, okay. Gaz Riley, what's he saying? Someone said Gaz Riley, OMG. Pete Robbins, it was Rolf Harris. Oh God, did Rolf Harris do a song called Fiji Girl? God, that's a bit rough. Now, the thing is with Rolf Harris is I really liked him when I was growing up because I didn't know any better. And I watched Rolf's cartoon climb. Used to climb up hills just as a cartoon. Now, Rolf's cartoon time, and what was the show he did on ITV? It was like his art club or something. And then it turned out that he was a sex pest, and he had a sexual relationship with a girl who was under the age of 16. And we all went, fuck, that man's a monster. Goes to jail, quite rightly. And yet with Trump, when they find out that he sexually abuses women and rapes women, and that he possibly raped underage women at the sex parties he attended with America's most notorious convicted paedophile. So this isn't rumors, this isn't internet, tittle-tattle. This is Jeffrey Epstein, America's most notorious and prolific convicted paedophiles. And Trump went to parties with him. And yet people are like, oh, he's still all right. No, I don't care if you thought he was all right in the 80s. I don't care if you thought he was all right in the 90s. As soon as you find out, the facts change. Jimmy Savile, who still thinks Jimmy Savile's all right? Imagine if it all came out, he's still alive, it all came out of all this horrific abuse that this man had done. And then he stands for Prime Minister and everyone bloody votes for him. You'd be like, what? Have I missed something? The same people who go bloody nuts about paedophiles, if they're the wrong colour, yeah. I didn't see Tommy fucking two names bloody Robinson at what's it called, outside the court at Rolf Harris's court case, or Stuart Hall's. I didn't see him there. Did you? Anyway, nice one, Graham. First time listening. Okay, thank you for coming. Now, who's talking about beer? Oh yes, beer's a good idea. Elizabeth saying, love the buzz you're giving me. I'm so sorry about this microphone business. I think it's just because the fan on my laptop is whirling around because my laptop's trying to do something above and beyond what it should be doing. Basically it's using a lot of memory and making it really hot. So it's got, I don't fucking know. A Tuborg. Gaz Valley says a Tuborg. Yeah, it was a Tuborg Christmas lager, I think. But Tuborg and Carlsberg, I think, are the same. They're made in the same place. The UK has Jaguar Land Rover. Yeah. Isn't that owned by Tata? Isn't that owned by an Indian consortium? China clay is our last natural resource. Just one quarry. Oh, and the North Sea oil, which now costs more to extract than it's worth. And Phil, yes, very, very true. Great points. Commodities, we do a great line in bullshit. Actually, the empire was built on it, and he's completely correct again. Joe by saying an island of coral surrounded by fish. An island of coal surrounded by fish. Coal is done, and don't start me on the fish. Do you know what? When we get this no-deal Brexit, or when we get a deal Brexit, I'm never eating a fucking fish as long as I live. Oh, God. Savile is how Brexit will be seen soon. Yeah, I hope so, Ernie. I hope there is this kind of enlightening, but I think people just have to live through it. And it is quite terrifying, the shit that Trump pulled in his presidency and the fact that 70 million people still voted for him. When the UK is gone, legalize weed. Yep. I think we will be heading in that direction very soon. Your laptop is buzzing with the excitement of not having tweets about Trump written on it. That might well be the case. And Elizabeth Bennett said, hey, you promised to follow me on Twitter. I thought I did, Elizabeth, but I will. I'll look you up now. Right, I'm getting off. So, oh, God, I'm yakking on for nearly an hour. Bloody hell. Right, join me tomorrow, and I'll think of something else to talk about. But thank you so much for joining me. Like I say, this has been the Hughes at 10. I'm going to try and do this every night of lockdown. I might be successful in that endeavor. I might not. But I'll let you know each day on my Twitter account. And from tomorrow, when my Facebook account is unlocked, I'll be able to publicize this on Facebook as well. Yes. And as things go on, I'm hopefully going to put together a better sound system and also have it so I'm streaming on Facebook, streaming on Twitter, streaming on YouTube, and streaming on Twitch all at the same time. But that's still to come. Wayne, let's talk. Call me. But yeah, so 70 million Trump fans are still alive. How do we deal with them? We need to put Trump in jail. Biden has to not pardon Trump. Trump has to go to jail, and then we can just forget about him. He won't have a platform. He won't be able to tweet. He'll just be in jail. And they'll go, why did you put him in jail? You say, because he was a massive criminal. And hopefully by then people will go, okay, we don't like criminals that much. Although then again, you get half of them go, well, Jesus was a criminal. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And I'll be like, ah. Anyway, right, better get going. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock, bright and early in the evening. And it's been a good week. Got rid of Trump. Although he's going to hang around like a bad smell for the next 2 months. But eventually he will be gone sooner. Well, later rather than sooner, but he will be gone. It's all over for him. So night, everyone. Cheerio ski. Bye-bye.